Welcome to the Charity Lounge podcast. Today I have a guest in the house who is known by the name the Black Lazarus. As much as possible, we bring people who are change makers in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's that they run a charity or they don't run a charity or they have a social enterprise or they're just making social impact. In this case, I have Mr. Bolaji Yoloye, aka the Black Lazarus, in the room.
Very nice intro. The Black Lazarus is a nickname which is a way that attracts attention. So when I go to forums, I sometimes wear a t-shirt, ask me why I'm called the Black Lazarus. Then when they ask the question, then I now answer the story of how I literally died in my house, had to be defibrillated 10 times in my house after a massive cardiac arrest. A cardiac arrest is basically an electronic malfunction in your heart. It can affect anyone of all ages, and the stats of surviving an out of hospital cardiac arrest is less than 1 in 10. So there's a small minority where people can, you can have friends and family that support you, but until you've gone through the impacts of literally dying and rising again, the impact of a lack of oxygen to your brain and what it means to you going forward, it's a small set. So that's just to testify to God's glory that He's still busy doing miracles. And the second part of that miracle was that I had an insurance in place, an insurance that I maintained for years. Even when I was out of work, I still maintained that direct debit, and it paid out.
So before we get to the insurance bit, which is this conversation is very heavy on that.
Yeah.
But before we get there,
Yeah.
before you had before you suffered the cardiac arrest,
Mhm.
did you have any health challenges or it was just sudden?
It was sudden. I hardly ever met my doctor. I think I was the last one to change my GP from our old place to new place. I didn't see the point. I worked out regularly, 2 times a week, stayed healthy, active, and yeah, it just happened. I will say that there were some signs leading up to that, slight clutching on my chest sometimes, but I had 3 kids going to private school. There was a lot of stress going on, but to this day, the guys at St. Bart's Hospital, the cardiologist specialist in London, highly renowned, they still don't know what the root cause is of the cardiac arrest.
Wow. Yeah. So yes, you're really the Black Lazarus because I've heard of stories of people that, would just fall down and that's the end. But in your own case, it didn't end that way. But the journey, how was the journey? But then even from what you heard, how long was it? How long were you dead for?
I think I was medically dead for about 10 minutes from what I recall. And when the cardiac arrest kicks in, it means that your heart's beating so quickly that the blood is not able to carry oxygen to the brain. It's going so fast, then the body shuts down. So there was a lack of oxygen to my brain for like 7 seconds. And in the hospital, in the house, they put me in an induced coma. So the plan was, okay, he's breathing. There's some sort of brain activity. There's a cardiology system is working. Let's get him to St. Bart's, put him in induced coma. The plan was for 3 days. Well, I had a siesta for 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
And Wanu had to follow me to get to St. Bart's to find where I was in St. Bart's Hospital.
Wanu is his wife.
Wanu, Mrs. Yo. It's just automatic here. The love of my life. And if you're ever looking for a wife, you need to find a God-fearing woman. And so I was in that induced coma for 4 weeks. I spent about 5 months in 3 different hospitals. I eventually came through from the coma. There was some brain trauma. They were gaps. I couldn't recognize my kids initially. I'll tell you one thing. When I eventually came to, I was like, where's my money? Where's my lawyer? They were like, Mr. Mobile, you're in the hospital. I said, no, I need my money. Because for me, my primary concern was my family, my wife and my kids. I didn't know how they would survive. It was only afterwards that my brother came to me and said, you do know you've got the critical illness cover. So yeah, it was a journey between having to learn to walk again, talk again, recognize. I still have my notebooks when I was writing Delphix. Delphix was the software I was working on before my old company. Yeah, so there was that huge memory block that I had to come back. So family and friends put beside my hospital bed, things like that. So it helped me to put the pieces together. So I was eventually discharged. I was coming up to 4 years now. February 11th.
I can't even believe it's been that long.
Yeah. It's 2022. I was discharged. And then the neurologist came up to me and said, oh, we've been thinking of having how do you put it? We'd like to have a conversation with a specialist to discuss how you made it, because they still didn't know, A, how I survived, and B, that I could have a conversation with them, because they thought I was going to be
brain dead.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's just what you said about your wife.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a woman who believes in you, believes in God, to be able to weather that storm.
Yeah.
Because it was a storm.
It was a storm, yeah. I was oblivious to it all. I mean, apart from one, there were people around the world, prayer groups, thinking of Mrs. Edgel. She's in her 90s now. Good. Her son is one of our son's godparents. So I've known them for over 20 something years. So she was joining the prayer group from Florida. So it was amazing. The prayer chains, the guys in New York, the guys in Lagos.
So now let's talk about the things you had put in place. Now, you didn't put these in place because you knew something was going to happen to you. Was it just by default, or how people come and sell things to you and you're like, oh, okay, it's nice to have.
Yeah.
And then it really came in handy. So tell us about the critical illness cover that you had put in place, how long you had it, how much was paid out to you, and how that helped your family.
I don't know if anyone knows Aguda very well, or
I grew up in Surulere.
So for me, the insurance thing, with the life insurance, the cover, I didn't really hesitate. Even at the end of each year, when I looked at the direct debits, I would cut some things, but I just never thought. And that critical illness was just an add-on.
Yeah.
It was just an add-on. The guy just threw an extra bonus.
So we come from a place where, and I'm talking about maybe minority ethnic groups, and maybe let me talk about Africans, really. We can be very religious, and we have this ostrich lifestyle where we try to bury our heads in the sand and act like we're not aware of things happening around us. So during COVID, someone had introduced this thing to me with Vitality, and I was trying to sell protection, and the few people I spoke with, in fact, I had to say, no, this is not for me, I'm not doing. The few people I'd spoken with, they had this thing of insurance, life insurance. And I think we were speaking just before we started this recording, where you said at one point or the other in life, people get pulled down by one form of illness or the other. And you were saying 1 in 2 people.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak a bit to that. So statistically, don't take my word for it, look it up. At least 1 in 2 people, or 1 in 3, it's something like that, will experience some sort of cancer diagnosis within their lifetime here in the UK. At least about 1 in 4 people before the age of 50 will have some life-changing event, whether it's a stroke, a cardiac arrest, etc. With my insurance payouts, it paid about £250,000 out. 3 kids going to private school and a mortgage. That's 4 mortgages, really, automatically. Those who go to private school will understand that. And without that, we would potentially lost the house and wanted to apply for a new job. Don't just look at the salary. You got to look at the benefits, the sick pay. A lot of people, when you have a conversation with them, you say, "Oh, what's your sick benefit?" "Oh, I don't have any sick pay." So if you fall ill tomorrow, you go straight to statutory sick pay, which is like hundreds. So which is not good.
People need to, and that's why we're having this conversation, so that people can know and be educated as well and informed. And like I always say, education is not about BSc, masters, or PhD. It's about the information you have, and you're able to use. So yes, please let us know. I have life insurance, I have critical illness, I have all that in place. But a lot of people just feel, I'm not ready to die, I go nowhere.
Well, a couple of stories. The stories, sometimes they're a bit heartbreaking. And this businessman, he's got lots of things going on. This thing starts, you know what? My critical illness cover, I'm going to stop it now. Let money flow. He cancels it. 2-3 months down the line, he has a stroke. Stroke impacts his brain. All the passwords, his business transactions, anything, no clue. I'm sure there are people chasing him for money. The first thing the wife did was pull the youngest one from private school. I mean, if he'd had that in place, he would have had at least a buffer to help him have some private healthcare or something. We've talked, I mean, your previous guest talked about the NHS. The NHS are doing the best, but when it's overloaded, you need a way to fast track that care to give the best to your family.
Yeah.
There are a couple of widows that we're supporting now. Their husbands died suddenly, diagnosed one today, and then 7-8 months down the line,
Gone.
and the wife is scrambling for cover. Wives, if you're listening, you've got to understand what's in your husband's policies, because one husband assured the wife, "Oh, I've got this cover, I've got this cover." He passes away. They check the policy. He doesn't have life insurance. He has accidental cover.
Oh no.
So, well,
It's
it,
as good as.
he's been paying that direct debits. Wife is exposed.
Okay, so now you're not just speaking to men, you're speaking to men and to women as well. There's the part where you get your cover, get it correctly, make sure the information there is right, make sure you have, I think, have your children added to it. Is that true?
That's true, yes. So with some of our policies, you can have your kids added to the underlying policy. So for clients, I try and get the clients to have their kids added.
Oh yeah.
So serious illness for you, in some cases, they may say, "Oh, it's too expensive, it's too expensive." That's okay, fine. I'll give you cover for as low as possible for yourself. But your kids, for an extra £5, you can have as many kids as you. So there's a widow there. So I'm trying to have a conversation with that to make sure that the kids are covered.
Yeah.
So, cancer or whatever, and they'll be covered till age 23.
So now please educate the men.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
if they don't have these policies in place, what is at risk?
Well, at Yano Financial Services, our motto, our policies is Bible scripture: a wealthy man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. We, as first generation immigrants, our goal is to build a better platform for our kids. So my mom came single. She's seen me go up. If anything happens to me, I'm convinced that my kids will step up. It doesn't have to be that someone has a stroke and then the cycle of poverty carries on.
Yeah.
As a husband and a father, you should know that if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, your wife isn't going to be scrambling around GoFundMe or whatever. There's 500,000, even 1 million, even that will pass through to your kids. And if it's set up correctly, I won't go into the technicalities, but if it's set up correctly, it will go straight to them. and bypass probate. So probate means it's delayed for months. That it goes straight to the named beneficiaries.
Or they are unwell,
Yeah.
and then they have to set up a GoFundMe
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can't afford to do the funeral.
Yeah.
And I know there's the funeral cover as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
and see, we all want to live long. I want to live long by God's grace. We don't want to be unwell, but the truth is, life happens. And even if you live till 90 or till you're 100, there's nothing stopping you from putting things in place. Even at 90, so you will still get paid out anyway.
Yeah.
Oh.
For our policies, we cover till age 90. A lot of policies out there cover till
70.
even 55. So till age 90, or you can have a whole of life cover, which means even if you live to 110, it will pay out. It's life assured. It's guaranteed to pay out.
So it's very important to have your cover, honestly. I don't think I can say that too many times. And for the women as well, some women are very dependent on their husbands in terms of, oh yeah, I have my money, he has his money, and they don't necessarily know what he has, whether in terms of his finances, in terms of maybe he has any form of cover or not. They just go, and if something happens, they don't know where to look.
I mean, I can tell you a story on that. The husband pauses his direct debit for a couple of months, then he dies in a car crash. Now, wife assumes policies in place, but no. Then she finds out that the policy is not effectively not in place. So now she's scrambling, calling the bank, saying, please, begging to maintain the house. So yeah, we just have to be on top of.
So how do women get this information out from men? Because some men can be very, I don't know if it's the fact that they don't want to share, or I don't know what it is. How easy was it for Wanu to get the information?
For me, I was very transparent with her about, well, some of the finances we weren't really 100% transparent about. I think there were one or two issues, but one thing I knew for sure was that if I was to pass away, she had my bank account details, the passwords, all that stuff. She had all that. But when the event happened, even though she had the access to the passwords and things like that, but she couldn't talk to the bank. So she didn't have a lasting power of attorney. So that's something that each partner should have. So if either one is incapacitated, the other one can go straight to the bank and say, okay, husband's.
So if you don't have that, what happens?
Well, there's a whole world of pain. The bank wouldn't talk to one of the schools we're chasing one for the money. The money was in the bank, but she didn't have access. So she was going to the cash point, getting £300 each month, loans and things like that. Whereas if she'd had a lasting power of attorney, everything would have been smoother in terms of having access to the funds, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So transparency, really.
Yeah, transparency, working as a team. I think I can't speak for all women, but I would say, look, tell your husband, if anything happens to you.
So men, please, we don't pray something happens to you, but then if anything happens to you, your children, your wife will be at the receiving end, and that pride that you already have. Oh, I don't want my family to beg. It wouldn't be fair if then they have to when something happens. And again, it's the same as well, even for women. Try as much as possible to be open. This is what I have. So I think in all of this, what I'm hearing is be open, do the right thing.
Yeah.
Be open such that you're not exposing your partner and your children to, well, dangers of the world.
Yeah.
AKA financial danger.
I mean, 1 Timothy 5, I said, I make sure I put it so I can read it. And anyone who does not provide for their relatives and especially for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So that's the harshest. If you've got everything in your repertoire of financial assets or whatever, and you're not willing to do that, then I don't know what else to say. You may have like 30, 40 properties, but if you don't have an insurance policy in place that is set up in trust, those left behind may have to scramble to dispose of assets very quickly to get some liquidity. Whereas if you have an insurance policy in trust, the money is paid out immediately. Yeah.
How does it impact the society generally?
I think the way it impacts the society is my job title. We wandered around a bit, and I call myself a financial protection evangelist because it's almost like spreading the gospel. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, insurance is not for me; is for only for wealthy people." Or
I've never heard that.
But with what we're doing, we're saying that look, it's not just for wealthy people; it's for people out there to avoid a cycle of poverty. That's number one. Number two, because you run a limited company, you still need income protection. Some say they don't, but a lot of businesses fail if the main owner is ill for 6 months. Whereas if they had like an income protection package, they would have a regular paycheck coming in. And what does income protection mean? It means that in the event of you being diagnosed, because you have a policy in place, as soon as you're diagnosed with that event, you can get maybe £3,000 or £4,000 a month. However, it's set up to maintain your bare minimum, and it can be set up to cover you till retirement age. So, real life example: a doctor, 38, he doesn't believe in insurance. They manage to persuade him. He takes the income protection cover till age 65. He doesn't want to take the 70s. The man has a stroke. He can't work anymore. He can't operate. Now he's not living off of that income protection policy till he retires. Now he's regretting it, didn't extend to 70.
But why do people, because you said some people think insurance is for the rich. Why would you think that way? Because what you pay for your insurance sometimes is what you'd pay for McDonald's in a month.
That's the thing. I think there's been a stigma that insurance people are scammers. Direct quote, the guy I spoke to in his 30s, I normally have an initial 15-minute consultation. It lasted about an hour. He asked a lot of questions. And now said, so, Edmond, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah, ask her. So all these other people, are they all scammers? So it's just us getting the knowledge out there that insurance doesn't have to be a way of getting a commission. It's a way of, one, generational wealth. Two, protecting businesses. Having the direct income protection in place to make sure your business is operating while the main director is unwell, or you as an individual as well. And a good, robust, serious illness cover like I did, that'll pay out a lump sum. So if you can't ever do what your primary job used to be, you could transition to being a teacher or whatever, knowing that your mortgage is paid off, all your debts are paid off with the rights serious illness policy in place that's designed to deal with all your mortgages and things like that. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. And what I'm thinking in my head is, should they just make it mandatory? Because your car insurance is mandatory.
I know.
Whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
you get to insure your car. So why not life? Maybe your life is your problem at the end of the day. So maybe that's why. Because if it's mandatory, then people would. But why do we have to be forced to do things that would benefit from? Because the way I see it is this: if I'm insuring my car or my phone, like I have insurance on my phone, and there was a day it just fell and broke. So if I can insure material things like a phone, like a car, why can't I insure my life?
That's a good question. I think about it all the time because, as you said, you're insuring on something that may happen, but a lot of people will not insure on something that definitely will happen. And lately, I've been thinking a lot about this concept of financial intelligence. I've always been into financial responsibility, investments, and things like that. And a few years ago, I read this book, The Wealthiest Man in Babylon. I don't know.
I've heard of the book
Yeah.
before. I've never read it.
The main concept is you paying 10% to yourself, 10% to yourself being to invest in high savings bank accounts or stocks and shares, ISA or whatever, things like that. If you're a Muslim, you're 10%. I can't remember what the term is. Or you may want to put 10% to your charity. That's your choice. But at least 10% needs to go to your investment funds or whatever. And at least 5% of your budget goes into financial protection. Dave Ramsey says 20 to 25%. Dave Ramsey is like this big time financial advisor in the States. A few others recommend 10 to 15%. But for you to do that, I'm digressing away from insurance now, is for you to have a budget, a clear budget, spreadsheets, you're tracking your expenses, then you know, okay, 10% goes to this, 10% of this. But for my financial protection, for me and my family to be properly covered, then that would be set aside. So, yeah.
So set money aside. It's important, honestly. It's not something we should be negotiating.
Yeah.
It really isn't something we should be negotiating. So age. I know that's a very important factor with policies.
I'll phrase it a different way. The older you are, the more expensive the premiums will be. That's why I always advise, as soon as you can, as young as you are, you put the insurance policy in place, because between the time you're 30 and 40, you don't know what's happened to your body. You may have a cardiac arrest or a stroke or whatever, then you find you're uninsurable.
Yeah.
I'm not uninsurable.
I was just going to say that, is there an age limit that you get to that you become uninsurable, which you just said now? So even if you're not unwell or you don't have any history of any form of health challenges, is there...
I mean, each company has its own requirements. So for the requirements that so far I've seen in terms of income protection, by the time you get to 60, you're not eligible for income protection anymore.
Okay.
Because, I mean, there's only another 10 minutes to retirement, so there's no point. With some, you can take life insurance till 70, but then the premiums are higher. So there are two different kinds of life policies. You can have a guaranteed or reviewable. If anyone comes to you talking about life insurance, make sure you ask for guaranteed, because the renewable or reviewable, they may come at age 70 and say, okay, we'll keep reviewing each year how healthy you are. So they now have the discretion. They say, oh, no, you're no longer covered.
And this is what I say about being informed, because some people will just say, oh, yeah, that renewable, I want.
Or you come at 80, time to review. Obviously, your premium at age 80 is going to be completely different from what you were at 7.
So the earlier you can get started, please get started. It's not too late to start. Put things in place, put systems in place, put everything in place. It's called risk mitigation.
Correct.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen. Yeah, so get things in place. So what would you say to someone who is still... Before I ask that question, are there religious limitations to this? Or cultural limitations? I think we've spoken briefly about the cultural bit of things, where people are very, oh, I'm not going to die, because they feel, oh, if you put something like that in place, it might attract something.
Yeah, the main cultural reluctance I've seen, especially mostly from Muslims. So they believe in this concept that if anything is making money off of interest, that they can't be involved. So some Muslims will stay away from insurance. So
so that's a religious. I just wanted to know if there's any religion where they don't necessarily embrace it.
From a cultural point of view, there's always like, oh, God forbid, and things like that. And obviously there's a reluctance that things will happen to them, believe in God. And some people say if they're going to take it, they're admitting defeats. I'll just share this example. There's a church. There are 3 bereavements in the church within the space of days or weeks. I can't remember exactly. Now, all those 3 families are going to church for support. So I think you can conclude where I'm going there.
Yeah, because that's even a very big burden on the church.
On the church, yeah.
Okay, interesting, because it's a serious conversation,
Yeah.
because we then need to do a lot of reflection. And I'm hoping if you're listening, you're reflecting as well and thinking, okay, what do you need to put in place? And I say, this is not me spoiling anybody's business. There are some subscriptions that we pay into every month that we don't necessarily need. If you do a review and you think about it, what can you knock off to then implement something that would really turn your life, your family's life around positively, whether you're there or not there? Think about it. Would that be your subscription to a store, or would that be a subscription to some form of delivery, or would that be a subscription to something you watch on the screen? So check your books and see what you might be able to knock off to be able to put something that would be beneficial to your generation
And yourself.
and yourself in place. So is there anything you would want to say to someone out there who probably doesn't know much about this, or who is still thinking like, okay, I'm one leg in, one leg out, I don't know what to do? Yeah, and I want you to tie this to your own experience in terms of what happened to you.
At the risk of saying I'm advertising, I'll just say just reach out. We offer a free 15-minute consultation. I review policies as well. The reason why I say that is because I've seen some policies that were set up to expire in age 55, things like that. And I hope I've answered that question. As a single person who's planning for a family, for example, you could put things in place to have a life insurance policy in place for you as an individual, especially for young people. I've started finding that it's best for me to advocate income protection for them. So in their 20s, they're doing well at work. If they can lock in a robust income protection quote that will cover them from their 20s till age 70, because then that policy for 20, 30 pounds a month, they can lock in a guaranteed income protection cover. It's a game changer. So regardless how many jobs you go to, you have health issues, challenges, whatever, because you guaranteed that private sick pay, you can always tap into it throughout your whole working career. So income protection, you've got a mortgage that needs covering, I can help you with that, or you can look into that yourself. Even as a single person as well, oh, I don't need insurance, I'm single, but then if anything happens to you, your mom may need to support you, tap into her savings, things like that. Whereas if you had your own income protection in place, that would help. God forbid you pass away, they may have to pay for your funeral or what you want.
Yeah.
And a true story, this woman had 3 kids in their 20s, but she made sure they all had life policies. And one of them went to sleep. He didn't wake up, but thankfully I had an insurance policy because they didn't have to pay for a funeral. Everything was all sorted, because it was a drippy youth. But
that took it took that part of the burden away from the parents.
No one should have to bury their child. But people die in their sleep all the I'm so it happens. So we can't take these things for lightly. People die from a blood clot is asleep, sleep apnea, that kind of thing. Don't gamble on God forbid, as one client told me, and he's in his 20s. He said, I can't depend on God forbid. And he took for £60, he had his mortgage covered, income protection covered, life insurance, because he's young.
So thank you very much for coming on the Charity Lounge podcast. And that's just we've been very serious.
I know, I'm a serious guy.
Talking about people will not die, but let's do the right thing. Yes, we'll do the fire round and just answer in one word or one sentence.
Okay.
And you don't have to think about it, really. They're very, very chilled out questions.
Okay.
So,
Go.
Lagos or London?
London.
Oh, wow. You're the first person saying that, I think, since I've been asking. Why London?
I left Lagos when I was 13, 14. The Lagos I remember changed dramatically in
Okay.
between when I came back after 14 years. When I come back to Lagos now, I see the other part of Lagos, the Wanus part of Lagos, not the
Not your part.
not the Ijesha part of Lagos.
Yeah.
I'm a London man, Covent Garden.
So tea or coffee?
I think tea. Yeah.
Tea.
Tea, yeah.
Okay. Winter or summer?
I'm a summer boy, yeah. I sweat a lot though. But you're from Africa, it doesn't matter. I still love summer.
So, what's one last thing you would like to say to someone watching today?
Don't leave your future or your own future to chance. Tomorrow's not promised to anyone. So I see that all the time. So a lot of young people tell me, oh, well, I'm covered by work. That's another thing. Your work insurance is at the company's discretion. I had cover work. I didn't extend my life insurance. I get the cardiac arrest. I leave work. I can't get insurance anymore. So do not leave anything to chance. Take a nice policy that you yourself control.
You're in charge of it.
Yeah.
Be in charge of your own life, basically, or your own story, basically.
Instead of HR.
Exactly. So thank you very much for coming today.
A real pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to the person listening today, go get things sorted. This is not negotiable, just get things done properly. You'll be better for it. Your children will pray for you. Your wife or your husband would pray for you. It's not because nobody wants to die. Yeah, we say we want to go to heaven, but we don't want to die. But the truth is, go do the right thing, and let's have happier children, happier family, even after we're long gone.
Yeah.
Because we know that we've done the right thing. And if you're very observant, you would have noticed that the one who Mr. Yo was talking about earlier is in the room. And we've decided to drag her into this scene of the movie. Welcome, Wonu.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Thanks.
grateful. I was trying to shy away, but you weren't having it.
No.
Here I am.
Because we really want people to hear your perspective. So tell me how this impacted you as a person first, mom, and how you dealt with the financial bit.
Okay. I mean, I think Bolaji was talking about how he was relatively fit. Yeah, he went to the gym often. He wasn't overweight or anything of the sort. So it really came left of center. I always actually said, can you go to the GP? Please, guys, if you have any inclination of something hurting, something not right, please get it checked out. And so on this fateful day, back then the kids were younger, so they were always doing one thing or the other, either football, music. So that particular day we were playing tag. So I brought one child, then he took the key to the car, he took another child out. So for half an hour that day, we were going to be at home at the same time, literally only half an hour. And the cardiac arrest happened in that half an hour. Because actually he was on his way out to get some passport photographs taken when he collapsed on his way to the door. If he had reached the door and shut the door behind him.
You would have been.
And so he had the cardiac arrest. I always laugh at myself when the paramedics came because I said to myself, please, can you not find a scripture to quote? And I could not find one. I could not find a single scripture to pray as they were working on him. But I said, but you know the name Jesus, and that's all you need. And that's all I said the whole time. I mean, I had my daughter, unfortunately, who was there, call my sister, call her uncle, her dad's brother. So everybody came, but I just stood there just praying that they won't stop working on him. Oxygen didn't go to his brain. They told us later for about 7 to 10 seconds.
That's a long time, though.
A very long time. And, they shocked him 10 times. So, they're doing like the chest compressions. And so, so that whole thing happened. It was meant to be in a coma for a couple of days, ended up being a month. They told us later that they had considered switching off the life support machine. One of the consultants actually came to me and said, listen, have you and your husband ever had the conversation where you talk about if one person is going to be in a vegetative state, what do you plan to do? And I can never forget, I said to her, he's going to wake up. She goes, well, from what I can see, he's not going to wake up. And even if he does, he's not going to be in a state that he's fit enough to have any kind of quality of life. and I was just rejecting everything she was saying. I mean, I can never profess to be a prayer warrior, and the people that know me, they know this. But that day, I just thought, no, I'm not going to accept this. This is not. He was 46, 47. So I'm not going to accept this, going to pray. So he alluded to the fact that there were prayers going on. Jesus House, shout out. Prayers going on every night. Pastor Daps. People were walking, going to St. Bart's, doing prayer walks around the place because it was COVID time. So you really couldn't go in 2021. But I just remember, and I remember the day that I thought, God, if you're going to take him, then just let me know. Because there was one day I actually couldn't breathe physically. It was like I was choking. And the whole time I was just so terrified that he was going to die or something. And the moment I had that thought, I felt free. Like I said, God, if you're going to take him, then just let me know and just take him. Because all this talk of vegetative states, I'm many things, but I don't know that I'm that person. But that day, I had taken my youngest to football and I was walking, praying, talking to a friend of mine. And I said, God, if you're going to take him, just take him, but just let me know. And I'd never felt so free in my life because I just thought, God's got this. God's in it. And whatever happened, we're going to be okay, right? That was the overwhelming feeling I had. We're going to be okay. But as God will have it, he didn't take him. I mean, it was a long journey. And 6 months in the hospital, 3 different hospitals. He used to wake up in the middle of the night. He had terrible hallucinations. He woke up one night and thought he was in Piccadilly Circus in the middle of the road. So the hospital staff had to call me to calm him down because he was going nuts, thinking, why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here. Where's my wife? This was like 2, 3 in the morning. And they called me a few times at that time of the day. If you know anything about my husband, he's not a violent person at all. But he, in those moments, because the hallucinations were so real, he got a bit physical sometimes. They had to hold him down. It was a really tough period. And I remember I'd be walking to the hospital and I'd be saying to myself, I'll be declaring, he's not going to die. He's going to live to declare the glory of God. And it was every single day was mental warfare. Every single day was rebuking the devil. So I'm always saying to my mind, no, this is not going to happen. I was always negating all the thoughts. I remember one time a nurse came to me and said to me that if they want to switch off the life support machine, I should tell them I'm going to take them to court. So in my head, I was thinking, why is she telling me all this? It wasn't until afterwards when the consultant said, oh, we consider switching off the machine. I was like, sorry. So it was very difficult, but I'm a very one day at a time kind of person. It doesn't always work out because it means you're quite last minute. But in that time period, one day at a time kind of worked because I could not think too far ahead. Too far ahead was too overwhelming. So
you had a lot to
because I had a lot to do. If I broke down and the kids broke down and they thought something was wrong, then they panicked. So I couldn't even afford to break down in front of the kids. I would do it in my room, but not in front of the kids. I remember the first day my youngest cried. It was because he saw me crying and he goes, oh my gosh, is daddy going to be okay? In my head, I was thinking this whole time, what have you been thinking? But up until then, in his mind, his dad was going to be okay. Community, I think one of your guests alluded to having a community. Community is just so critical. The people that drop food in my house, the people that organize the dropping of food in my house, the people that sent cleaners to my house. I didn't ask anybody, but it was really, really difficult. I'd drop the kids in the morning, I'd go to the hospital in the afternoon, then I'd find God bless the people that picked up my kids from school, bring them back. One of Bolaji's cousins came to stay for 2 weeks, ended up staying for 2 months. So there were just God
So you had help.
moments, yes, in all of it. And I'm forever grateful to God and to all those people that he used to show that is our testimony. God sent men to help us. Apart from the miraculous where he touched Bolaji's life, obviously, yeah, I would say was a journey. It was incredibly difficult, but also overwhelming because it's like God singled you out at this moment and you can literally see God's hand in your life. Whereas before you're a Christian, and you believe God, you have the faith, but you may not have experienced certain dimensions of God where you're like, okay, I can say categorically that God is this. And I saw that and I've experienced it, and you can't take that away. Difficult period, but also overwhelmingly enlightening. I think that would be the phrase, and I'm forever grateful. Yeah.
So the money bit.
Yes. So the finances, it's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time. As Bolaji said, I had his card. So he had written down, the companies that he had life insurance with, critical illness cover with. And he sent me this email like 10 years ago. He just sent me an email with all this information in it.
Wow.
So I now started searching at this email, and I knew one of them. I knew the name of one of the companies. So that was the search I used in my email. I didn't even save it anywhere on my phone. It was just this email. Oh, Lord Jesus.
So what if the email had been deleted?
And so, but then saying that as well, as Baji said, I had his card, but I'm not named on his account. So I called the bank and I was like, okay, listen. They said, oh, well, I'm sorry, Mrs. Yoloye, you're not named on this account. You don't have access to it. You could be anyone. They said,
Yeah.
yes, you may believe that. And that may be the truth. But we don't know anything about that. And so, I didn't have access to the money in his account. I could get £300. It wasn't going to help me. And nobody was going to take cash from me anyway. The other thing was, even though he talked about this critical illness cover now, and for some bizarre reason, the way that is set up, it's set out to pay to your spouse, but he has to sign it. Because I didn't have this lasting power of attorney, it means that everything is still in his name and he's still the one in control.
So how did you manage that bit?
We had to wait for him to come around. 6 months. It took forever. I just couldn't get access. Then I had to pay the courts, I can't remember, 400 or 500 pounds to gain access to his accounts. But for that, you need his family members to sign the paperwork. His family members have to sign the paperwork. So that was a whole other process. It was just very, very long and exhausting. So even though he said, get all your cover in place, they also have to be structured right. There was another insurance policy that he was paying out of another account and he missed the direct debits. The insurance policy was null and void. So I don't think he mentioned it. You have to get something called a waiver of payment, where if you miss a payment, they waive that and you still have access to that policy. Someone advised us to go to the financial ombudsman to chase it up. But at the time, I didn't have the capacity to do that because they just said, yeah, no, you missed a payment. That's it.
So you missed one payment and then it deactivates.
They said they tried to reach him. They tried to reach him. It wasn't only when he came around that the person who set up the policies for him was saying, oh, but you have this policy as well. And then when we reached out to them, they said, oh, the policy is null and void now, even though he had been paying into it for 20 years. So you have to make sure that everything is structured right. So, but I mean, Budget advises people on that as well, to make sure that it's structured right. Some people have taken this waiver of payment policy, I think, just to make sure that, it's one thing to put it in place, but make sure it's also structured properly so that the people that need it actually receive it. So financially, it was actually quite tough. But again, people were just putting money in my account. I can't even, talk about how blessed we were in that period. If it wasn't for people, it was just blessing. Obviously, the school fees is a different matter altogether. So in terms of day to day, the kids and I were actually quite blessed. Still are. But in terms of school fees and the heavy things, the mortgages, those were the ones that were like really heavy sets, were the ones where I was really struggling. And because the way Bolaji and I are structured, he did all the heavy set stuff. I did the, the lecky bills, the electricity bills, and the day to day. So all those ones were still getting paid, but the roof over your head. So those were the ones that were like problematic. A few of the lenders I spoke to, they were quite nice. But again, 6 months. Who's going to wait for you for 6 months? That's a long time.
Yeah.
So, when Bolaji talks about it, you don't want to be a burden to the people around you, it's really more than just your, nuclear family. It's a whole host of, if you look after your parents, if you are supporting other people, you have a charity, you support a whole host of people. There's more to it than just your immediate family. If you're incapacitated, there's a whole host, domino effect that you can have, goes beyond your immediate family. And I also wanted to say, I know there's a lot, it can sound like a really heavy conversation, but I guess it is a heavy conversation, but they're just true to that. And even though, Bolaji talks about his payout, which came out to about £250,000, it wasn't actually because he had a cardiac arrest. So for some bizarre reason, the way his policy had been structured was if he was in the hospital for 20 consecutive days, and he was in the hospital for 6 months. Just really needs to be careful, because some people actually don't cover cardiac arrest. Some insurance companies don't do that. So it just depends. But I think Baji, because of his experience now, he really knows what to look out for, how to, to make sure that, you know, your family are set up properly, that they receive the money at the time when they need it. It's because, you know, I was waiting for 6 to 7 months for
That's a
us to
long
get anything.
time.
You
That's
know,
a
that's a
long
really
time.
long time. So, you know, we owed the school money for that period of time. That's really, if they were just not nice people.
Pull your children out then.
Exactly. So, you know, thankfully, I really think God spared his life for him to educate people, because I don't think I had heard it obviously I hear it a lot now because it's coming from my house, but I don't think I'd heard as factually as I'm hearing it now. And there are a lot of things I didn't know that I'm learning now, like that waiver of premium I mentioned, that I definitely didn't know it was a possibility. Then, you know, we change jobs all the time. You know, you leave your job that you think you had this great security and you had whatever protection, go to another job, the situation may be different. The younger you are, you know, when people do those videos, things I wish I knew when I was younger. Things I wish I knew when I was younger. Because for 10, 15 pounds now, I probably have to pay the equivalent of 17. I'm almost 50. You know, there's just a lot of things that I didn't know. I certainly didn't know, and I'm grateful that I know now. So
yeah, and thanks for educating us as well. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
we have been put here to educate people. So please don't suffer the way I did. Please, if there's anything I want to get across, is please don't make the same mistakes I made. Don't, you know, you mentioned an ostrich mentality because you think it's not going to happen to you. Nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. I certainly didn't think it would be me. So educate yourself. There's no knowledge is wasted. Even if you're not going to use it, educate yourself, know about it, make informed decisions. You know, the God forbid mentality, I get it. Nothing's going to happen by the grace of God. However, should it happen, then at least you're covered and nobody else has to suffer the way I suffered. Don't do it.
So thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
And if you still haven't subscribed to the Charity Lounge podcast, this is the time to subscribe. Click on the subscribe button because it is free of charge. See you next time on the Charity Lounge podcast.